on and get Maggie to join us now. Maggie, are you here?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Maggie. Hi, thanks for joining us today. So Maggie, you know, everyone sits on the edge of their seats, kidding, hearing the millennial perspective. You dove into this industry at a good time. So tell us what you're going through now, and what are you sharing with your clients as a consultant?
Sure. So most of my contracts actually as a consultant have been suspended, and my new business initiatives have been postponed a bit to address the immediacy of everything that's happening. So what I've been doing is just offering a different perspective, offering my clients support when they need it, saying, just personal, how are you? If there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know. But one of the interesting conversations we're having now goes back to what was discussed previously. My consulting is mainly focused on helping event companies improve their sales processes. So instead of really talking about how to sell, it's talking about how to communicate with your clients and how to communicate, if it might be line item by line item, the value that you're offering them and how important events are.
Yeah, so from where you sit now, are your clients millennials, and what are you speaking about now in terms of the future and what you envision from where you sit, how events are going to?
Well, I think that to answer one of your questions is how millennials view the current situation. And I think it's an important conversation to have, because as you discuss populations in terms of a generation, it provides insights and important information about the formative events that happen, such as COVID-19 crisis, and how they influence different worldviews. And so I hope that in answering this question, I can help all of you today just to have a better understanding of the values and the goals of millennials as a generation as we get through this experience together, which is also what I'm providing my clients as well. And so I just want to start with a brief overview of the millennial generation and also highlight some misconceptions of the group. So to start, I just would like to set the record straight about how old millennials are. Currently, millennials are 24 to 39 years old. And so this means that the oldest in the generation are hitting a milestone next year when they turn 40 years old. And millennials are sandwiched in between Generation X, who's currently 40 to 55 years old, and Generation Z, who's currently 10 to 23 years old. And so the millennial generation spans 15 years. And just like any other generation, a 24-year-old is different than a 39-year-old. And if we put that into perspective a little bit, if we look at the older millennials, they were 22 to 27 years old when they were first starting out in their careers, and then the Great Recession of 2008 hit. And on the other side, we have the younger millennials who entered their careers 10 years later in 2018, when unemployment was its lowest in 50 years. And so they had far greater career opportunity than did the older millennials just 10 years earlier. And I think that difference is a good example of the differences between the youngest and the older members of a generation. And so in the middle of the generation, I graduated high school in 2008, and then I entered the workforce in 2012. And like other middle millennials and the younger millennials, this time right now is the first economic and the first financial crisis that we're experiencing as working professionals. And I also want to communicate that my third point is millennials have been branded as irresponsible during this pandemic, and many people in the generation find it to be a bit confounding. I, along with many other millennials in my generation, have been self-quarantined for going on 5 weeks now. And during the early part of the quarantine a few weeks ago, I found a tweet that I think clearly demonstrates how millennials are viewing this situation and what they are doing during this time. And so I'd like to share it with you. It reads, "Millennials are not partying. We and our anxiety issues are holed up, working from home, watching Hulu, and yelling at our parents not to go outside. It's Gen Z that you want." And I can completely relate to this because it is, in fact, what I'm doing. And I'm glad to report that 84% of millennials are doing the same thing. So I just want to break that tweet down a little bit and share the reality of the majority of the millennial generation during this crisis. So to start, millennials, most of them are not partying, and we were not partying. The older generation has young children of their own, and they're established in their careers, and the younger millennials are just starting in their careers and frankly might not even have enough PTO to take 5 days consecutively off in a row. And so while the early articles and the headlines claimed that millennials were intensifying the situation and harming others, the narrative categorized college students who are currently Gen Xers as millennials. And so you wonder, what are millennials doing right now? And I think the number one thing that millennials are doing is worrying about their parents. Millennials are afraid for their parents, who are boomers and in some cases older Gen Xers, but that population is considered an at-risk group. And so we're worried about them, but we're also frustrated because we're trying to get them to understand that COVID-19 is a big deal. And as the first time as millennials, this is the first time we are confronting the aging and the mortality of our parents. And millennials were always a stressed out generation. This situation is no different. Millennials are called the worry generation, and others try to, I guess they don't understand about why there isn't such a dramatic shift in the outlook of this situation amongst millennials. And it's mainly because millennials are already so anxious. My husband and I are both millennials, and we use this concept we call worry dollars. So when a situation comes up and we start to worry, it helps us to focus on the worry, to put it in perspective, and to then make a decision if the situation is actually worth worrying about. And
yeah,
so,
well, Maggie,
yeah.
Can I give you some boomer advice and
Yeah.
start partying more? Okay.
Well, I'm getting to that.
All right, good. Thank you, because you're making me worried now. So,
well, I guess I'm representing the population well then.
There you go.
Yeah. But it just, I think the last point here in the tweet is that millennials have been trying to and pushing their companies to work from home for quite some time. And so this opportunity is providing millennials the chance to show boomer bosses that we are, productive and efficient and perhaps more creative when we have the option to work from home. And so I urge everyone watching today to recognize that work from home and the option to work from home is becoming more standard operating procedure.
Well, thank you for that perspective.